Hi students, how are you all? I hope you are fit and fine at your home. Dear students, today here we are going to learn one of the very important chapters of 10th standard history subject, that is 9th one, heritage management. Dear students, after a long time I am making video for the students of 10th standard. So watch it completely. Dear students, before moving towards the lesson, first of all I would like to request you that if you are new on my channel, then do not forget to subscribe right now and hit the bell icon so that you will get current notification of each and every new video, as well as you can share it to your friends and comment below the video. With this student, if you want to support me, then you can click on the thanks button and you can support me, as well as you can use this QR code and UPI ID to help me or support me. Thank you in advance, students. Now, without wasting time, let's get started with the lesson, that is heritage management. So let's start with the first of all, let's start with the meaning of heritage management. Both words are very familiar to us, heritage and management. We are quite aware about management, but heritage, what do you mean by heritage, student? The culture, the tradition, the objects, okay, that are very important for a country, that is called as heritage. Traditional things, cultural things, objects, buildings, okay, it may be oral source, it may be written source, or anything, students, and that should be important for the country. Okay, so that is called as heritage. So here we are going to learn in history the management of such kind of heritage objects, important things, traditions, cultures, languages are very important, student. So here we are going to learn about the management of heritage in this video. Dear students, in this chapter we are going to learn the 9.1, that is sources of history, their conservation and preservation. 9.2, that is some famous museums. 9.3, libraries and archives. And the last one, 9.4, that is encyclopedias. Okay, student. So most probably I will be trying to make 4 separate videos for each point. So today we are going to learn the sources of history, their conservation and preservation. Dear students, before moving further, here what do you mean by conservation? That is very important, student. What do you mean by preservation? That we are going to learn, student. And one more important thing, student, without reading it is impossible to understand. So here first we will read it and then I will explain it to you. See student, introduction we are going to learn now. See student, first of all I will read it out for you. Some sources of history and all the history books that are available today are the results of diligent work of the several historians. Institutes like libraries, museums and archives conserve and preserve this precious historical heritage. See student, here what we can say that all the sources of history are very important, student, because because of the sources of history we can learn about the heritage. Okay, so what is important here? The sources of history is important, the history books that are available, and it is the result of the diligent, the very famous scholar, what we can say, historians. Okay student, then institutes like libraries, museum and archives conserve and preserve this precious historical heritage. Dear students, in the first lesson we have already studied the sources of history. The sources of history can be in the form of oral, written or material. Okay, so these sources of history are very important, and these sources of history are preserved and conserved in the libraries, museums and archives, we can say, and this is very important for us. They choose important specimens from the heritage collection and exhibit them. The historians select the important specimens from the heritage and they can exhibit it, they can collect it. Okay, so they also publish research journals, informative pamphlets and leaflets, posters. So all this information is very important for us, which are conserved and preserved by the historians, the important, the famous diligent historians, we can say. See student, now next, the documents and artifacts which are not exhibited but historically very important are stored in the museums and archives after completing necessary treatments for their conservation and preservation. So what to do for the conservation and preservation? Sometimes all the documents and artifacts are not exhibited, but it is very important according to the historical point of view. So they are stored in the museums. Such kind of documents are stored in the museum after completing the process, after completing a proper treatment on that documents or objects. Many museums we can see, student, in the museums we can see many historical things, but before they are exhibiting in the museums, they are processed. The process is done on them, okay, as well as treatment is done on them, so we can see the objects as it is. It can be preserved for a longer time also. So such kind of documents and artifacts both are very important sources of history, student. So it is very important to conserve as well as preserve them. Okay, those documents and artifacts are made available to researchers as and whenever necessary. Libraries conserve, preserve and manage the books. Yes, student. So such kind of documents can be used for the further research and study. And such kind of documents, this is very important according to the examination point of view. In the examination for the multiple choice question or objective type question, such kind of question can be asked. Libraries conserve, preserve and manage the books. Okay, student, don't forget, it is very important according to the examination point of view. Okay, students, have understood this? Students, if you have liked this video, then do not forget to like it, share it to your friends and subscribe my channel right now and hit the bell icon so that you will get current notification of each and every new video. Dear students, here I would like to request you, if you want to support me, then click on the thanks button and you can support me, as well as you can use this QR code and UPI ID to support me. Thank you in advance, students. Now, dear students, we are going to learn the further and the first point, that is 9.1, that is sources of history, their conservation and preservation. Dear students, we have already learned about the sources of history. Many sources of history are there. For example, the main sources of history are oral, written and material sources. We have learned already in detail. But here, now what we are going to learn is that conservation as well as preservation also. Conservation and preservation of the oral, written and material sources. So what is required to conserve and preserve the oral sources, the material sources and the written sources? Okay, so what kind of training is required? Who can preserve that? Who can conserve that? And what kind of training is required to that preserver or conserver? That all we are going to learn here. Now, student, if one question can be arise in your mind, what do you mean by conservation and what do you mean by preservation? See, student, most of the time the conservation is belonged to the nature. Okay, natural things. Okay, use of natural thing in a proper way, in a systematic way. Okay, for example, we can conserve water. If water is flowing, we can stop it from flowing. For example, if the tap is open, it means that water is wasting, so we can off the tap, we can close the tap and we can save the water. So such kind of things are called as conservation of the natural things, that we can save it. Okay, whatever available in the nature, that we can save it, we can use it in a proper way. Okay, students, understood? Yes. Now see, what do you mean by preservation then? So preservation, actually it is related to protection. Okay, we should protect the things, okay, from harming, from the human harming. For example, right now we are facing one problem, that is deforestation. The trees are being cut by human. So here what we can do, we can protect the human from cutting the trees. So it means that we are protecting the trees from cutting. Understood? So that is called as preservation. Preservation is related to protection. Okay, and conservation is related to use of nature in a proper way. Okay, so I have understood these two concepts. It is very important. Okay, now see, next we are going to learn. Dear students, reading is very important. If you want to study anything, reading is very important. First read, then only you can understand. So see now, each step like collecting the sources of history, creating their records and indexes, exhibiting manuscripts, old books and artifacts after completing necessary treatment requires very careful handling and management. See student, here while conserving and preserving, some of the steps are very important. For example, each step in conservation and in preservation are very important. For example, collecting the sources of history. I have told you just now, various sources are there, various types of sources are there. For example, oral, written and material sources. These are very important and the main types of sources we can say. So it is very important to collect the sources, then creating record of it. Okay, once we collect the source, we have to create a record for that, we have to maintain it. And then indices. What do you mean by indices? Mean recording the historical documents in alphabetical order. It is very important, students. Okay, then exhibiting manuscript, then we have to do the exhibition of the manuscript. What do you mean by manuscript, student? Whatever is written with the hand, that is handwritten, that is called as manuscript. So we have to exhibit the manuscripts also. Old books and artifacts after completing necessary treatment requires. Okay, so old books are there, artifacts are there, do a proper process treatment on that to preserve it, to conserve it. Okay, student, to save it, to protect it. Okay, proper chemical, mechanical, okay, cleanliness should be done. Okay, after that we can save it or preserve it. It needs people with the specific skills. Yes, student, already I have told you who can preserve it, who can conserve it, what kind of people are required to conserve and preserve the historical documents, artifacts, fossils and all. Okay, so a specific skilled people are required to conserve and preserve the historical documents, artifacts, objects. Okay, only trained persons who are duly qualified can take up these tasks. Yes, nobody can. Okay, common man cannot do it, but a trained person, a skilled person can do such kind of task or a work of preserving historical documents, artifacts, fossils, objects, valuable things. Okay, students, have you understood? Now next, see student, I have told you just now the sources of history. Okay, so each sources of history, it is very important to save it, protect it. Okay, so one of the very important sources is the oral sources of history. What is oral? Whatever is spoken, that is called as oral sources. Okay, this is very important. It has very important place in history because many historical sources are in the oral form. Okay, folk forms we can say. Now see student, in oral sources of history, collecting and compiling of folk songs and folk tales, etc. Yes, in oral form, just now I told you in what comes in the oral sources of history. Actually, songs, stories, tales, the folk songs, folk tales. Okay, all these are the oral sources. Okay, so here what is important? Collecting and compiling. We have to collect the oral things. Okay, we have to collect the oral material. We have to collect the whatever the things which are in the oral form. For example, folk songs and folk tales. Very importantly, folk songs and folk tales. That we have to collect it and we have to compile it. We have to compose it together. Okay, students. Now next, what we are going to learn now, see students. So don't forget here. Now see student, the next one, classifying, analyzing and interpreting the compiled material. So whatever is collected, whatever is compiled, what we have to do the student now? Classification of that oral songs, oral folks, oral folk tales. Then we have to analyze it. Critical analysis should be done. Already we have studied in the earlier lesson how to criticize, how to study the historical documents. Okay, how to prove it, whether it is genuine or not, whether it is real or not, whether it is true or not. Okay, so we have to verify all the document, we have to verify all the material in the oral form, and then interpreting. Then afterward we have to do the interpretation. Okay, at the end the historians can interpret, or they can tell whether it is true or false, whether it is correct or not. So the next one, publishing the results of perspective result. Then it is very important, whatever is study is done, that report we have to make a report of that, and we have to publish that report. Okay, students, understood this much? Very good. Now see, who can do this, student? Just now I have told you who can do this. The necessary training should be given to the person so that he or she can preserve it and conserve it. So see, sociology and anthropology. Okay, the person who are mastered in sociology and anthropology. What is anthropology, student? The study of human science. Okay, that is called as anthropology. The student who are perfect or mastered in sociology, he can preserve, because he might have knowledge of society and anthropology also. Then social psychology, it is also very important to know the social psychology also. Okay, so we can understand the psychology behind that oral sources. Okay, now here mythology and linguistic, it is also very important to understand, student. Mythology, most of the time it is related to the myths, it is related to the religious aspects, it is related to the spiritual things. Okay, it is related to the religious things we can say. This is very important to understand, as well as linguistic also. The student or the person who knows the linguistic aspect, he can understand the folk tales. folk songs, the old oral sources. Okay, if he is not mastered in the linguistics, very difficult to interpret the folk tales, folk song. So here linguistic is important. Then library science and information technology. Here the librarian is very important, because in library the librarian can conserve and preserve the books or the historical material, whether it is in oral form, whether it is in written form, or whether it is in the material form. Okay, so library science and the information technology. Now next one, fifth one, history and the historical research. Earlier we have seen how to write a history. Okay, earlier in the first lesson, second lesson, we have studied that how to write a history, historiography we have studied. So here he should know the historical research method. Okay, in what way we can do the research. Okay, scientific method is there, survey method is there. Okay, so which method we can use to write the history, that is also very important. So such kind of training should be given to the person. Then writing of research report and articles, this is also very important. After doing the research, what is important? Writing that research report is important, as well as publishing that report and making aware about this to the people, that is very important. So this such kind of training should be given to the person who will be preserving and conserving the historical things or sources. Okay, students. Now see here, next students, here we are going to learn the second sources of history, that is the written sources of history. It is also very important. Already we have studied about the written sources of history, very important according to the examination point of view. See student, in written sources of history, collecting coins and copper plates with inscriptions on them, documents and official records, personal correspondence and diaries, historical books and old books, manuscripts, pictures, photographs, etc. While preserving and conserving the written sources of the history, what is important, student, here? What we have to do, or what a historian should do? Okay, what the conserver or a preserver should do? See, he should collect the coins, copper plates. Earlier the copper plates are used to write, inscriptions are written on the copper plates. Agreements in the ancient days, old days, inscriptions are written on the copper plates with inscription on them. Documents like official records, okay, personal correspondence, diaries, historical books, old books, manuscript, pictures and photographs, all these we have to collect first. Okay, the historian should collect it. Then completing necessary, after collecting this we have to do a necessary what process on that. What kind of process? Mechanical process and chemical process of cleaning for the conservation and preservation. Already I have told you some mechanical process we have to do, some chemical process we have to do on that, so that we can clean it and preserve it for longer time. We can preserve them for longer time. Okay, student. Now asserting the historical value of the collected documents. Whatever the historical document is collected, whatever the historical what written document is collected, we have to assert, we have to make sure, we have to ensure the value of it, the importance of it, how much it has the importance. Okay, that we have to make sure. Then exhibiting selected documents, if the documents are very important according to the historical point of view, then we have to do the exhibition of such kind of documents. In the museums, many times in the museums we can see such kind of documents which are exhibited in the museums. Now publishing edited documents and research report, this is also very important, student. We have to publish the reports which are written on that documents. Okay, that is also very important. Now who can do this, student? Who can preserve this? How, what kind of training should be given to the historian who can preserve it? Now see, student, here the next one is necessary training. Necessary training should be given to the person who can preserve it. Now see, necessary training. What kind of training should be given? Knowledge of scripts like Brahmi, Modi, Persian and their development. So here in short, we should give a training related to the language, we can say, or script we can say, because here the person should identify the script. Okay, Brahmi script, Modi script, Persian script, Urdu script, okay, old Marathi script, Pali script. Okay, so many scripts are there, so we should have knowledge of that script. Then only we can identify whatever is written out. So knowledge we should have. So such kind of training should be given. Now next one, basic knowledge of social organization, tradition, literature, culture, dynasties, administrative system of the past societies. And the person should have knowledge, or he should be given the such kind of knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Social organization. If you are quite aware about the social organization in the old days, then only you can if any document found belonging to that social organization, then only you can identify that or interpret such kind of documents. Okay students, so he should have, it means that he should have enough knowledge of history. Now tradition, literature, culture, dynasties, the administrative system, we should understand the administrative system also. For example, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj has one administrative system. He has the Ashtapradhan Mandal. If you are quite aware about that, if you have knowledge about the Ashtamandal, then you can interpret the working of that Ashtapradhan Mandal. Okay, so here you should know the administrative system. Now, knowledge of various schools and styles of painting and sculpture, art and history of their development. We should have the knowledge of the various schools, disciplines, okay, in the history, then only we can interpret the things. Now, style of painting, earlier in the previous lesson only we have studied the history of Indian arts. In the chapter in the history of Indian arts, we have already studied the style of painting. For example, Maratha style of painting, Mughal style of painting. So we should quite aware about that. The person should quite aware about this. The sculpture art, we should know about the sculpture art. Okay, and as well as history of their development, how it is developed. Then he can preserve it, conserve it, interpret it also. Okay, student, understood? As well as knowledge of types of papers, what kind of papers are used, okay, as well as ink and color. Why we should have such kind of knowledge? Because we can understand a particular piece of paper or particular kind of paper has been using in a particular era only. So we can identify the document is belong to a particular era or period. Okay, so in this way, it is very important to understand the type of paper, ink and the color also. Now let's move further, students. Fifth one, that is the knowledge of properties of various stones, metals used for inscription. This is also very important. You should have, okay, what the knowledge of properties of various stones, what kind of stone is being used for carving, okay, what kind of metal is being used for inscription, for example copper plates or silver plates or gold coins, what kind of metals are used for the particular inscription. That is also very important. Now sixth one, knowledge of equipment and chemicals used in various process of cleaning, conservation and preservation. So what kind of knowledge is required? That knowledge of equipment and the chemicals, what kind of equipments are used to preserve, what kind of chemicals are used to clean. So knowledge, he should have such kind of knowledge. Without this, he could not able to preserve it, he could not able to clean it. Okay, knowledge of various approaches of managing exhibition in museums, galleries and information technology. So he should have this general knowledge, how to exhibit, where to exhibit, okay, how we can do the exhibition in the museums, galleries, okay, that information. As well as he should be well equipped with the knowledge of information technology. Also writing research reports and articles, this is also very important. Already we have studied in the historiography. Okay, so writing research report and articles also, because after writing research report and articles, we have to publish it compulsorily. Now next point is, that is the third one, material sources of history. Already we have studied in the first lesson that material sources of history. Now to conserve and preserve, what is required for that? Let's try to understand. Collecting artifacts, classifying them according to their historical date and type, and preparing indexes. This is very important. Student question can be asked on that. So first of all, what we have to do? We have to collect the artifacts, we have to collect the objects, okay, whatever material is there, that we have to collect. Then we have to classify it according to their historical date. According to the historical date, we have to classify it. Okay, for example, in excavation, if you found any object, then we have to obtain it, we have to clean it, then we have to we have to study it, and we have to classify according to the date, according to the time and type, and preparing indexes, and according to that we have to write a index, okay, alphabetical index we can say. Now next one, completing necessary mechanical and chemical process of cleaning for the conservation and preservation of the collected document. Just now I have told you, if you want to conserve it, preserve it, we have to do some process on it, treatment on it, okay, mechanical as well as chemical, so that we can conserve it, preserve it for a longer time. Now next student, here arranging exhibition of selected artifacts of their replicas. Okay, so here also we have to do the arrangement of the exhibitions of selected artifacts, which the artifacts which are very important, as well as we can exhibit the replicas. Replicas means what? Models of the objects. Sometimes in the exhibition, what we see, we do not see the real things, but we can see the objects or the models of that object. Okay, students. So that can be exhibited. The next one, writing and publishing research articles about collected articles. So it is common one in all, in oral, in written, and in material sources. This is common on writing and publishing the research article about the collected artifacts. Then classifying fossils of the plant. So classification also is very important, and this is also a common thing, that classification of the fossils of the plants and animals and preparing indexes. Okay, so in the excavation, if we found fossils of the plants, fossils of the animal, fossils of anything, that can be studied. Okay, that can be cleaned, and that can be what, written, okay, in the indices. Okay, marked in the indices. Then exhibiting selected fossils or their replicas. So again, here we can do the exhibition, okay, presentation of the selected fossils only. Okay, otherwise if it is not possible to exhibit the original fossils, then we can use the replicas, models of the fossils. Okay, students, have understood? Then for this, what kind of training is required? Let's see. Students, if you have liked this video, then do not forget to like it, share it to your friends, and subscribe my channel right now, and hit the bell icon so that you will get current notification of each and every new video. Dear students, here I would like to request you, if you want to support me, then click on the thanks button and you can support me. As well as you can use this QR code and UPI ID to support me. Thank you in advance, students. Such what kind of training is required for it? Basic knowledge of the archaeological method and his theory, history of ancient civilization. See what is required now, student, here. So basic knowledge of archaeological. What is archaeological, student? Whatever we study, the objects which are obtained from the excavation. Okay, that is called as archaeological, and we study as per the time. Okay, or human era. So here archaeological study, the method of archaeological study, we should have the knowledge of archaeological study, as well as the theories and history of ancient civilization. We should have the knowledge of civilization, the oldest civilization, for example, Egypt civilization, China civilization, Greek civilization, Sindhu civilization. So we should have the knowledge of that civilization. Okay, so such kind of training should be given to the person. Now, knowledge of regional sources of material like stones, minerals, metals, clay used in the production of the artifacts and their chemical properties. So he should have such kind of knowledge of a stone, knowledge of the material, knowledge of the metal, knowledge of the chemical, knowledge of the ink. I have told you already in the written document. In the same way, such kind of information is required, such kind of knowledge is required for the preserving the material sources. Now, knowledge of equipment. In the written also, this was the common one. Okay, knowledge of equipment, knowledge of equipment and the knowledge of chemicals is very important, necessary. Okay, then only we can preserve it properly after cleaning it. Okay, then knowledge of various schools and the styles of arts and their development. This is also very important. In written and in oral sources also we have seen, this is the common one. Now knowledge and skills of making replicas of artifacts. So we should have the knowledge how to make the replicas or models. What material should be used to make the replicas or models. Understood? Now see, student, just now I have told you he should have the knowledge of making the models of the artifacts as well as the fossils. Now the next one, that is knowledge of various approaches of managing exhibition in the museum, galleries and the information technology. This point is also the common one. He should have the knowledge of exhibiting all these things is the museum. How to exhibit it? Okay, it has also a skill. Okay, if you don't have the skill, how will you exhibit the things? Okay, so here he should have the knowledge of various approaches of managing exhibitions, okay, as well as information technology. The last one, writing research report and the articles. This is also common in all the three resources, that is oral, written and material. Okay, so have understood this much? Very good. Dear students, here we have studied the first point of the 9th lesson, that is heritage management. Dear students, if you have liked this and found it useful to you, then do not forget to like it, share it to your friends and subscribe right now. Hit the bell icon so that you will get current notification of each and every new video. Dear students, if you want to support me, click on the thanks button and you can support me. As well as you can use this QR code and UPI ID to support me. Thank you, students. Let's meet soon with a new video. Till then, be studious, be thoughtful and be connected.